Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome back to Fintech Fridays. I'm Brian View, President, Chief Operating Officer of FinLocker. And joining me is my friend Anthony Balsamo, the founder of Vonk Digital. Anthony, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Brian. Glad to be here. I love the podcast. You guys add a lot of value and you get a lot of good guests. Keep it going.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been fun. It's one of those things that I can tell you our episode here is the 91st episode
Nice.
done. Pretty wild.
That is wild.
And it's turned into this thing that I enjoy because I get to learn in these conversations.
Yep.
And so it doesn't feel like, it almost feels effortless. So hopefully that's how it comes across to the audience. That's the intention, is for them to, if they don't know Anthony and they don't know Vonk, after this conversation, they're going to know enough to hopefully reach out and learn more from you. But excited to have you. I come across Vonk all the time in conversations with lenders and loan officers, and
good.
You guys are doing, yeah, exactly. You guys are doing some cool stuff. You're definitely helping originators at a time when they need the most help. And so let's just start right there. Maybe at the onset, just give us kind of a high level. Who is Vonk? What do you do? How did you start it? And we'll just kind of go from there.
Sure. Well, Vonk Digital, I co-founded with some of my old business partners in my last mortgage company, and my brother, Vinny, who I call the Wizard of Vonk. He oversees all the tech, the platform, the team. So he's not as forward-facing anymore, but if you become a client of ours, you will interact with him, and he's great too. But essentially, we're a website platform specifically for the mortgage industry. We focus solely on that industry, and how we started. And this will kind of explain how we fit in the market. Is I had a mortgage company. I started as a small brokerage. We ended up as a 28-state independent mortgage bank at our height. Almost 15 years in the business on that side. And as we were growing from, just like truly mom and pop as a 4-person brokerage we never got as big as some of the huge players, but I think we were at 150 employees. So it was sizable.
It's a big company.
But as we grew, the needs changed for our company and specifically how we marketed ourselves online. And at the time, the solutions available were either, hey, it's this super templated solution, which is great. You can be up and running fast, but the customization wasn't there, which we did and eventually grew out of. And then the only other option at the time was to go out and find an agency, build a custom site, pay a ton of money. I always say it was money we really didn't have at that time to be spending on that specifically. And the issue there with the custom site is you have to educate most agencies on even what the mortgage industry is and all the information. All of a sudden now you're basically building the site. They're just putting it together. And then the ongoing support is really hard too. So we needed a solution with my company because we're growing. We're opening different offices. We have recruiting components. How do we blend all that together and have a solution that will scale with us and not even necessarily size, just with our needs? If that makes sense. So we ended up building a site for ourselves on top of the WordPress platform framework, and realized that other people in the industry, brokers, individual LOs, independent mortgage banks, are going to have the same issue. So why don't we spin it off as its own independent company? Which Vinny ran for many years, and then at the end of 2018, we sold our company, and I stayed on with the acquiring lender for one of my 3-year contract, 1 year of the 3. Great company. My business partners are still there. In my personal career journey, that chapter had closed for me. It had closed, and it was time for me to move on. And I just have an affinity for marketing and strategy. And, you say you like having these conversations with different people around the industry. I get to now have conversations with all the, the heavy hitting producers around the country. And that lights me up, just seeing what they're doing and, how can we fit in and help either take something off their plate, make it a little easier, and just be a piece, kind of aggregate all the stuff they're doing to to present them online for people that are looking for them. So
Yeah,
that's
that
today.
I love I love companies that follow that storyline, right? Because you're solving a need that you had yourself, right?
Correct.
So another way to say that, you're eating your own dog food, right?
Right. Yeah.
um, and you get to be your first client, and
Yep.
probably fair to say, probably one of the most critical clients you would have would be yourself as a client. And so
Yep.
you get to really refine this product in a kind of a live environment.
Yep.
And then I don't know this for a fact, but I would suspect that the fact that you founded and ran a brokerage and built the business, built this website around it, and this company came out of that, gives you a ton of credibility in when you're having conversations with top producers, branch managers, and even business owners. It just makes sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think all the emerging and leading technology platforms right now have founders and executives that can speak the language. It's
Right.
especially with how nuanced the mortgage business is. I just think that's so critical. It's not necessarily required, but it sure helps.
Yeah.
It helps on the company side and on the client side. Your background, same thing. You're a lending executive at a huge company for
Right.
many years. One, not only does it resonate, but even in like the R&D and what you're going to do and what the next thing you guys will roll out, you can have a vested voice in that conversation,
Right.
right? Um, which I think is great.
For sure. So today, tough environment, tough market for lenders and originators. Um, and it's an interesting time because we've kind of, the way I think about it, we've got the market is what the market is. We know inventory's tight. We know rates are elevated, and the two combined are creating kind of this. I hate to say, I don't want to call it a once in a lifetime, but it's a tough environment, and we're on the cusp of a generation shift of first time home buyers, right?
Yep.
And so I'm guessing a lot of conversations that you have are centered around, A, how do I address today's environment? How do I maximize traffic and conversion and all the normal stuff you would expect to be talking about? But at the same time, have an eye on this next generation first time home buyer and how they expect to interact with a brand, and specifically the brand's website. So I'm just curious how you kind of manage the reality of today with what's coming down the pipe with the Gen Z first time home buyer generation.
Yeah, it's a good question. And yes, I talk about that a lot. I think what I observe in the market, especially with the Gen Z first time home buyers, getting about to be a huge portion of the market, it's really almost like a uh, it's almost like a study in human behavior. And so what we've tried to do with what we offer is look at how does that generation get their information? What are they doing? And I mean, I think Tony Robbins says like success leaves clues, but like
Yeah.
you can look at like what they're doing. They're on the social platforms. They want their information. They want to be able to get their own information. I talk a lot about self discovery.
Yep.
I think there's been a shift. I don't know. I joke. I don't know if I made this up or I took it from somebody. It doesn't really matter. I think it's still relevant. But I think there's been a transfer of authority from how people get information. And, if I were to sit here and say, hey, you should use Brian, like that, referrals are still huge, but most people want to be able to then take that information and go do their own home
Yeah.
research and see what they find for themselves. So where we fit into that is, you know, I'm trying to help people when they come to, if someone, a prospect or a referral partner comes to their website, how do we take you beyond just being a logo on a generic site?
Right.
And how do we treat the site as a digital job interview where people can see reviews, they can book calls, they can download the FinLocker app, they can see live rates, whatever uh, is a uh, assist to what your strategy is. We
Yeah.
want to be the spot that reinforces that online. So get credit for what you're doing offline, basically, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. So I don't know if it's a controversial question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Sure.
Because every website has this, whatever the industry is. In our industry, it happens to be a call to action that says apply now.
Yep.
How do you feel about the apply now call to action? I know it has to be there, right? We all know it has to be there,
Yeah.
but how do you think about where should it live, and what should you give the visitor to your experience first before you punch them in the nose with an apply now button?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. And our sites are so customizable. Even if you go to our website, a lot of our demo sites will have apply now as one of
Yeah,
the main calls to action, just because that's whatever. Um, I think that is like walking up to a stranger and proposing to them on the
right.
street. It's just way too aggressive. Um, so there's tons of different, download your financial fitness app. We do that with your tool with some of our clients.
Right.
Look at live rates. Uh, put your information in to get some sort of video content that's going to help them. Like, and you're a baseball guy, like you should be hitting base hits right now.
Right.
Just start the relationship, build trust by adding value in advance. Whether or not they use you or not, you're not going to capture everyone. That's part of that style strategy of helping and educating first. Some people will take that information and go use it with their friend.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You have to
Right.
be over that. But I think, to your point, the apply now is way too aggressive. It has to be there though, because there's
Yeah.
a portion of why people have a website. There's the marketing perspective of how do I aggregate, whether you're doing events or podcasts or you focus on referral partners. Like there needs to be a place where people can go to learn about you, but also after you've had the conversation with the borrower and they're ready to start an application, just go to my website.
It's your storefront. Right.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because I'm super curious to understand, like, again, talking about the shift in generations of our first time home buyers. What I'm hearing, and I don't know if you follow Ali Cardi from Active Comply.
Yeah.
She kind of is the de facto voice of Gen Z, right? That's her cohort.
Yeah.
That's who she hangs with, and she talks about the fact that generation is distrusting of salespeople, right, or the sales process. They don't want to be sold anything. Yet when they're ready, they want to be able to do business the way they want to do it. And if it's digital, you do. So it's a balance of not being overly aggressive, but still having that call to action in a prominent enough place that it doesn't get lost, right? So it's kind of there's a psychology, I'm guessing, there of just studying visitors to these sites and how they're engaging, and when is it not too soon to put this in front of them and things like that. It's going to be interesting to see it play out.
Yeah, I think to capture that attention, it's really basic. It's hard to do, but if you think about it differently, it's like, what can I offer somebody that's going to help them, and it's not too intrusive.
Right.
That's where you start. There all the content you can do around that, and education, that all plays into it. We were talking a little bit about free framing before we started recording.
Yeah.
And I'm such a diehard believer in that style of doing business, which I think lends itself very well to how this emerging generation feels comfortable consuming information. Like, they're used to people like putting it all out there way before you're ever going to interact with them in a business sense. So, whether that's educational content, giving them a tool where they can kind of get their ducks in a row is huge. Seeing live rates, and then being able to book a call. I don't even think they want to have to email somebody to call or just do a blind call. We're integrating Calendly seamlessly for a lot of our clients. That seems to be the booking calendar of choice, almost like
Sure.
The equivalent of like a Microsoft Outlook or Gmail. Like, people are just used to that,
Right.
as a consumer and a business owner. But just making it, and that's almost a more of a natural way to do business anyway. You
Yeah.
know, I think this is part of just a bit the evolution of business in general. It's more comfortable to do it that way.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah. You bring up the Calendly examples, and actually, it's a really good one. I love when somebody that I'm, trading messages with has a link to their calendar.
yep,
Um, and I think back, I'll avoid booking, time on booking a meeting with somebody if it's going to take a 3 email back and forth
yep.
to find it's just like, it's not worth it. I'm not going to bother. Right.
I know how much
It's the
business you think's
dumbest
been
thing in the
lost.
world.
Yeah, how much business you think's been lost in just that interaction where they get, nope, I can't do Tuesday at 4. How about Monday? It's like, I forget
Yeah.
it.
I'm out.
Like,
I'm done. I'm
yeah,
done. No. And it's a little thing that, you know, 3 years ago, we didn't have the ability to do that, right? So we did have to play the ping pong match back and forth with texts or calls or emails to get on somebody's calendar. But now it's like, no, if you don't have that simple, link available, then you could be losing opportunity. It's amazing. And it's
yep,
another example just of how things evolve. So that kind of leads me to my next question about kind of Vonk specifically, and how you guys as a business and as a company and from a product perspective stay on the cutting edge of, web commerce, I'll call it, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm guessing you guys are having to study up and just make sure you're not only on the front end of the technology that supports a website, but the psychology and how phraseology and the use of, words and colors kind of play in. Is that all kind of part of the process when someone contracts with you all?
Yeah, I think um, I'm a little like I'm a little outside of the box with some of the super technical stuff, meaning like the colors. Like you
Yeah.
can do split testing and that does have effects. But to me, the like especially with the mortgage industry and like people are not they're not necessarily
Right.
100% marketers. They're focused on their craft and originating loans. Like to me, it's everybody should be focusing more on the front end, like offer, whether that's a niche and what they're talking about. Because if you do that right, the colors and that stuff that
Yeah.
doesn't matter. They already are bought into you. Um, and I think for us too, like yes, I had a mortgage company. We have mortgage clients, but even with Vonk, I'm also a business owner and I do all the
Yeah.
marketing for my company. And we generate all our business online, all inbound. It's all through a booking link that like I live and die by that thing. So as a practitioner of putting some of this stuff into play for myself, it's between industries, the strategies don't really change them.
Right.
It's just catching the mortgage industry up on this, which has actually been really refreshing in the last I'd say even 18 months. Um, Again, I understand that we're in basically like you know apocalypse right now,
Yeah.
but the the independent mortgage banks, even the large ones where it used to be like, no, we're the brand, that's all you do, have really understood. I think that back to that consumer behavior piece that it's the people, it's
Right.
their originators that are the brand, and they're opening up them, the ability to go out and get their own websites and have their own tools. Um,
Yeah.
which,
You nailed it. This comes up in so many conversations that I've been having lately. And some of this is the difference between a true purchase market
yeah,
and, call it an order taking, loans falling out of trees refi market, right?
yeah,
In a market like we're in right now, people do business with people
yep,
more so than they do business with a brand,
yep,
right? And so to hear you kind of talk about that and acknowledge it, and what's refreshing is that what I heard you say is some of the bigger brands
yep,
recognize, yes, their brand is important, but it's not as important as the individual person in a local community who's facing off with this first time home buyer or this potential customer. And so you guys you allow enough personalization
yeah,
with your product that you know, Joe Smith, who's at ABC Mortgage, can stand out from Sally Sue at the same ABC Mortgage.
Yep.
Even though they're at the same company and they share the same logo, they can have a little personality in their experience through your platform.
Yep. And I think you nailed it too. The market specifically, purchase market, like you got to go get the business.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's down, but there's still a ton of really motivated, high level originators in markets across the country. I think once you get to that level too, and maybe the hand was forced with some of the larger lenders. I don't know which came first.
Yeah.
But we have some clients, on our higher end as far as like caliber of producer that I don't think they would even entertain going to a company that wouldn't allow them to do their thing anymore. It's just, they're too big. They do too much stuff. They bring too much value, whether they're doing events or, video content or all that stuff, the reviews, they've just gotten so sophisticated. It would be silly from an enterprise level to say no to somebody like that because you wouldn't let them, have their own tools. So,
yeah, I mean, and I think with technology, because besides having any kind of ego on your brand as a business owner, the other big tent, the big pole in the tent is compliance.
Yep.
Still my brand, so I'm liable for whatever you say on your landing page, your website. So you guys kind of can guardrail that to a degree, and still give that personalization at the branch or LO level, but stay within, the compliance guardrails, if you will, right?
Yeah, and that's super important. I think that I was a COO of my last company, so I was the guy dealing with, the state auditors and HUD, just taking the beatings every time we messed up. So I understand firsthand that all those little things matter. So we even have a lot of our content now pre-audited by MQMR. If we're going to put program content, it's like, let's just get ahead of this. They could still come in as a QC person for a company and put their own mark on it, but we've gotten you pretty close. It's not all the way there. But yeah, I think for where we try to fit and how, what we're innovating, I think it's important to always be innovating as a company like Finlock or like Vonk. Is I've just looked at the market and I'm a big proponent of jack of all trades, master of none. This is our lane. We have some nice tools that we build. We're feeding in some, feeding the reviews, social feeds, lead forms, calculators. We have the whole blogging platform where we provide weekly content. So I think it's a blend of, we get you a lot of the way there with the stuff we provide, but then you have full access to really make it your own and bring in all these other great tools that really complement what we do and certainly complement what the originators do.
Absolutely. So, I know you're really active on LinkedIn. You're putting out some great content. And how are you guys thinking about, there's I don't want to call it a gold rush, but there's a lot of attention at the loan officer level going to social, which is a great thing, right? This just amplifies that personal brand. How important is it if for that social influencer, that financial influencer, how important is it that their website, where the customer ends up, is kind of aligned with the message that they're putting out on their content? And how do you guys kind of help shape that?
I mean, that's the whole name of the game, right? They're getting their attention on whatever platform they're using, and then when they get to the site, if we can pull in content that they're producing somewhere else and have it on the site, because not everybody's going to find you on YouTube, right? You could be a YouTube star. Not everyone. I'm not necessarily going to TikTok, but we have clients that do unbelievably beneficial content on TikTok. We'll just stream that in, so everybody else that doesn't consume information on those channels can get it on their website.
Right.
But it's like even just a welcome video. There's so many little things you can do. It's just, the best way to put it is we just try to help people treat it as a digital job interview. Like I said before, like if you can go there and get and meet, we'll use me as an example from an LO. If you can go to my website and there's enough meat there to actually feel like you got to know me, see I have have clients, see who I am, what I'm about. If you have a niche, even better. When I
Yeah.
talk to a guy that all he does is uh, vacation rentals in the Smoky Mountains, like that's an
Yeah.
incredible niche, like you can just be that, So
Yeah.
if you have one, convey that on there, um, and then give them like we talked about before, one of some softball
Yeah.
thing to do. Look at rates, download an app, um, put your information in to get some content. It could be, and the barrier to what I try to think about when I create content, when I tell people, is like, would you watch it? Is it helpful? Is it
Right.
interesting? Like if I did a video as an LO and said, I'm going to walk you through the closing cost worksheet and show you all the fees you can negotiate. You could have bought in 5 houses, but you might not know a couple that you can actually negotiate.
Yeah.
Let me just show you that. Name and email, I'll send you the link right now. That's something more than like just saying,
Yeah.
here's my free home buyer's guide.
I love that. I just had a conversation on that same topic. The average home buyer has no idea that they can shop for various services that are part of the financing transaction. There's an assumption that it's all chosen for me, even though I'm paying for it. It's all chosen for me. And so, to your point, there's a catalog of content that you can create solely focused on building awareness and educating people that they do have a choice.
Yep.
And by the way, don't put a call to action to apply now on that content, right? This is where you're building that relationship, you're building that trust, you're adding value through education, and you're going to earn the right for them to click your apply now when they get to your website. So it's little things like that it's cool to see. I'm starting to see more and more, loan officers not only embrace the social channels, but they're leading with value and education, and not trying to, cut the head off right at the first event there. So good stuff there.
I got a question for you about that, because like I'm after you start to create content online, and I'm sure people listening to this will, if they do it, will have gone through the same thing. It's like after a while, like consistency is the hardest part, right? Like, and I've been struggling specifically over the last probably 45 days. Like, where's the balance of consistency, meaning like how often do you put stuff out there versus how good it is?
Great question. I'm testing that right now. I'm pretty much only on LinkedIn, and that's where my target audience is, because I'm B2B like you are, right?
Yep.
So on my personal LinkedIn page, I have minimum 4 posts every day.
Yeah.
All scheduled, right? What I try to do is from Monday through Friday, of those, 20 posts, at least 4 or 5 are new and original for that week. And I spread those out, one original a day if I can.
Yeah.
And I usually record those on a Saturday. And then, because I've been now doing this pretty religiously for about 8 months, I'll go back to October, November, January, February, and start recycling posts. And so every day there's some older stuff that gets mixed in. And at first I was really kind of like, I didn't want to do that. I thought that was disingenuous. And someone said, what post got the most views? Well, it was a baseball post of my kid, and I was at spring training at like 25,000 views. But the next one down from that I would say was business. Maybe 5,500. So this guy's like, okay, so 5,500 people saw that video once. How many people are on LinkedIn?
Right.
Like, don't worry about you recycling content, because not everybody's seeing everything, the same time. And then the other thing was, and this was another thing that I struggled with, was like, I tried to always have every new video I did to be super original.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if there's something important that you want to convey, say it, but just say it a different way 20 times. And that's 20 pieces of content, because again, not everybody listens the same way. So I don't know that I'm not certain yet that there's I don't think quantity alone is the answer. I think it's got to be, I think quantity and consistency are important, because then people do kind of look for you. Maybe it's
Yep.
not, maybe it's subconscious, but they're kind of looking for your message.
Yeah.
Um, but you hit it on it earlier. It's give value, find something and talk about something that's going to be valuable. You can't just always be, doing a FinLocker infomercial, right? So
Right.
the reason I'm doing 4 posts is I'll sprinkle in once a day something that's very FinLocker focused, and then that kind of ties it all together. So now when my audience is seeing me in the morning, they're subconsciously connecting that to the FinLocker message they're going to see later in the day, and
Yep.
it's working. I'm not the expert at this. I'm literally kind of testing and learning, but it's working. And now that we're back out doing conferences, where I notice it working the most is when I hit the conference. People are like, "Oh man, I saw your stuff on LinkedIn." It's like, okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
and I think the same applies for someone that's doing B2C and building an audience, building followers that are consumers. I think it's the same thing applies there. If there's something important that you want to convey, don't be afraid to say it over and over and over again, just a different way with a different backdrop, things like that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it transfers into podcasting too. Once you kind of
Yeah.
find what you like I, I listen to some stand up comics, their podcasts that I just love, just when I'm zoning out or driving.
Yeah.
You just need something light, and I'll get a kind of annoyed if they skip a week. You
Oh
know?
yeah. Yeah. Well, the stand-up comics are a great example, because every one of them has their own formula,
Yeah.
and they pretty much stick to it. We all know Jerry Seinfeld's formula, right?
Yeah.
And he's he's still funny 30 years later. It's the same formula, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's just kind of sprinkling in new words, new content, but using the same tried and true formula. Well, we could probably do this all day long, but what I found is our audience tends to want to get on with their day. So, Anthony, man, thanks for coming on. This was a blast. Glad to get you on here finally, learn about Vonk. We'll include in the when we post this out, everybody, you can click the links up, down, over, wherever they are. You can
Yeah.
learn more, get in contact with Vonk and with Anthony and the team. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna, if it's okay, Brian, I want to share like a little short, 2 5-minute videos I did on that pre-framing concept. I
Oh
think
yeah,
if you're listening and you haven't fully wrapped your head around that, again, it's 2 5-minute videos, really to the point. It's really specific from an originator point of view, and I think that would be helpful for people.
I love it. We'll put those in the podcast links. We'll put them on our Fintech Fridays LinkedIn page. And then we'll obviously connect everybody back to you. So, Anthony, thanks a lot for coming on. We'll have you back for sure. And thank you to the folks that joined us this Friday. And we'll see you next Friday on FinTech Fridays.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Take care.
Thank you.